The roar of the crowd was deafening, a living, breathing force that pulsed through the arena like a heartbeat. Millions had speculated, debated, and argued over this matchup. Some called it impossible, others a dream too wild to entertain. Yet here they were, standing across from each other, two of the most dangerous men to ever step into a ring. One, a living legend of boxing, whose fists carried the weight of history. The other, a master of combat, whose unpredictable style had dismantled warriors of every caliber. Mike Tyson. Jon Bones Jones. It wasn't just about skill. It wasn't just about legacy. This was a collision of two philosophies, two worlds of combat that had never truly met in their primes. Tyson, the embodiment of raw power, speed, and relentless aggression. Jones, a mastermind of movement, angles, and ruthless adaptability. The question had been asked for years: what happens when the greatest striker of his era faces the most complete fighter the fight world had ever seen? There were no more theories now. No more simulations. No more debates on online forums. Only the truth, waiting to be written inside that cage. Even the air inside the arena seemed charged, as if the universe itself understood the gravity of this moment. Celebrities, champions, and lifelong fight fans sat on the edge of their seats, eyes locked on the two men who could alter the course of combat sports forever. The commentators could barely contain themselves, voices rising with every second that ticked down. The referee gave his final instructions, his words cutting through the tension like a blade. No one truly knew what would happen next. Tyson's gaze was the same as it had always been, a predator's stare, the kind that had broken men before a single punch was thrown. He wasn't just here to fight, he was here to destroy. Decades after his reign of terror in boxing, he was still Iron Mike. And yet, across from him, Jon Jones stood with an eerie calm, an almost detached confidence, as if he had already seen every possibility play out in his mind. He wasn't just prepared, he was expecting to win. The anticipation had built to a boiling point, and as the final seconds before the opening bell slipped away, an unsettling thought crossed the minds of everyone watching. This wasn't just a fight. It was history in the making. And in the chaos that was about to unfold, someone was walking out with their legacy forever altered. The bell rang. The world held its breath. Tyson moved first, exploding forward with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for a man his age. It was the same burst that had sent countless opponents crumbling in seconds, a ferocious step inside with his signature head movement, followed by a left hook that had ended careers. But Jones wasn't there. With the slightest shift, he slid just out of reach, Tyson's punch slicing through empty space. The crowd gasped. It wasn't often that anyone could make Tyson miss like that, especially not cleanly. Jones responded instantly, snapping out a stiff oblique kick, his foot crashing into Tyson's lead leg. It was a technique that had given him an edge over world-class strikers for years, and now he was testing it against a boxer who had never faced a threat like it. Tyson's leg buckled slightly, but he didn't hesitate. He lunged in again, this time throwing a thunderous right hand that barely grazed Jones' chin as the taller fighter leaned back. But even a graze from Tyson was enough to send a ripple through the arena. Jones smirked, acknowledging the danger, but his eyes remained locked in, calculating. Then came the unexpected. Instead of maintaining his usual range, Jones did something no one had predicted. He stepped in, not to strike, but to clinch. He wrapped his long arms around Tyson's upper body, using his frame to smother the shorter fighter's power. The audience erupted in shock. No one had ever willingly engaged Tyson in a close-range battle. He was the king of inside fighting, the master of short-range destruction. But Jones wasn't playing by conventional rules. Tyson immediately went to work, throwing sharp uppercuts into Jones's midsection, his gloves hammering against ribs with brutal force. Jones grimaced, but he didn't let go. Instead, he shifted his weight, using his leverage to twist Tyson toward the cage wall. And just like that, In a matter of seconds, the fight had shifted from a boxing match to a test of raw control. Tyson fought back with everything he had, planting his feet and attempting to create space, but Jones wasn't giving an inch. His knees shot up, smashing into Tyson's thighs and stomach, chipping away at the legend's mobility. A perfectly placed elbow clipped the side of Tyson's head, and for the first time, the former heavyweight champion staggered slightly. It was uncharted territory. Tyson had faced pressure before, but never like this. Never against someone who could neutralize his power so effectively. Then, in an instant, the fight took another shocking turn. Tyson roared and exploded forward, using sheer will to shove Jones backward, creating just enough space to fire off a monstrous left hook. It connected cleanly. Jones' head snapped to the side, sweat flying from his face. The entire arena rose to its feet as the undefeated mixed martial arts champion stumbled for the first time in years. But as quickly as the moment came, it passed. Jones recovered, shaking off the shot with a defiant grin. And then he did something that sent shockwaves through the building. Instead of retreating, he pointed to the center of the cage and nodded. A challenge. A dare. He wanted Tyson to meet him there, man to man, no clinching, no wrestling, just pure striking. Tyson wiped his mouth with the back of his glove and stepped forward without hesitation. Whatever was about to happen next, one thing was certain: neither man planned to take a step back. Tyson didn't hesitate. He marched to the center of the cage, fists coiled, every muscle in his body ready to fire. Jones met him there, lowering his hand slightly, inviting the exchange. It was madness. This was Tyson's domain. This was where he had destroyed giants. And yet, Jones stood his ground, waiting. The first punch came like lightning. A right hand from Tyson, short and explosive, aimed straight for Jones' jaw. But Jones barely moved his head, just enough to let the punch skim past before firing back with a sharp elbow. Tyson took it without flinching and swung again, his left hook slicing through the air. This time, it landed flush. Jones' head snapped sideways, his body shifting off balance for a brief moment. The crowd erupted, some believing that was the shot to end it. But somehow, impossibly, Jones stayed standing. He blinked, reset his stance, and threw a front kick straight into Tyson's chest. The impact sent the boxing legend stumbling back, but not down. Tyson shook it off and stormed forward again, now throwing punches in rapid succession. Jones absorbed the first, dodged the second, and countered with a spinning elbow that came out of nowhere. The crack echoed through the arena. Tyson staggered. His legs wobbled for the first time. Jones saw it. He pounced. Another elbow, this time to the temple. A knee to the body. A head kick that Tyson barely blocked in time. The legend was hurt, but he refused to fall. With sheer determination, he swung again, a final, desperate hook, putting every ounce of power behind it. If it landed, it could change everything. But Jones wasn't there. He ducked, slipped to the side, and in one fluid motion, wrapped his arms around Tyson's neck. A standing guillotine choke. The arena held its breath. Tyson struggled, his arms flailing for space, but Jones tightened the grip. The pressure was suffocating. Tyson, the warrior, the icon, refused to tap. He kept fighting, kept pushing, until his knees buckled beneath him. Slowly, unwillingly, his body gave in. The referee rushed forward. It was over. Jones let go, stepping back as Tyson slumped to the canvas. Silence filled the arena for a moment, a stunned realization settling over the crowd. And then, just as quickly, the noise returned, a deafening mix of awe, respect, and disbelief. Jones knelt beside Tyson, offering his hand. The boxing legend, breathing hard, looked up at the man who had just beaten him and nodded. There was no shame here. No excuses. Just two warriors who had given everything. As Jones raised his arms in victory, The world knew they had witnessed something unforgettable. Not just a fight, but a moment in history, one where greatness met greatness, and respect was the ultimate prize.